The law tells you what you must achieve. Frameworks and standards tell you how. This module covers the two operational backbones, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework and ISO 42001, and we teach them together, because in practice you'll run them together. Here's the gap this module fills. A regulation like the EU AI Act tells you what to achieve, manage your risk, govern your data, ensure human oversight. But it very rarely tells you how, what process to run, what controls to put in place, what evidence to keep. That's what frameworks and standards are for. They're the practical how-to layer that sits beneath the law. And the beautiful part, which we'll keep coming back to, is that the same implementation serves both. Do the framework work well, and you've largely produced what the law asks for. So let's meet the two that matter most. First, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, usually just called the AI RMF. It was published in January 2023 by NIST, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's voluntary, it's flexible, it's organized around the AI lifecycle, and it's deliberately neutral about technology and sector. It works for any AI, in any industry. And although it's a U.S. product, it's been adopted globally, far beyond America. Think of it as the most widely used voluntary AI risk framework in the world, and, increasingly, the common language people use when they talk about AI risk at all. The framework is built on 4 functions, and the shape matters. At the hub sits Govern. Govern is about cultivating a culture of risk management, the policies, the roles, the accountability. It's not a one-time step, it cuts across everything and is always on. Around the rim are 3 functions you run for each specific AI system. Map, establish the context and identify the risks, who's affected, what's the intended use, what could go wrong. Measure, analyze, assess, benchmark, and track those risks. And manage, prioritize them, act on them, allocate resources, respond. So the mental model is, Govern is the always-on hub at the center, and map, measure, manage is the cycle you turn on every system you build or buy. When NIST says it wants trustworthy AI, it means something specific: 7 characteristics. Valid and reliable. Safe. Secure and resilient. Accountable and transparent. Explainable and interpretable. Privacy enhanced. And fair, with harmful bias managed. Now, do these sound familiar? They should. They're essentially the principles from Module 3, but reframed as concrete, measurable properties. And that reframing is the point. These 7 are exactly what the measure function tests for. When you assess an AI system under NIST, you're checking it against these 7 characteristics, one by one, with actual evidence. When generative AI exploded, NIST faced a choice: rewrite the whole framework or extend it. It extended it. In July 2024, it published the Generative AI Profile, document number AI 600-1, which adapts the AI RMF to generative and now agentic systems. It names 12 risk categories that are unique to, or made worse by, generative AI, things like confabulation, which is their word for hallucination, dangerous or violent content, data privacy leakage, threats to information integrity, and harmful bias. And for each, it maps suggested actions back to the 4 functions. It's a great example of how a good framework adapts to new technology without forcing everyone to start over. Let's make it concrete by running the framework on one system. Govern, you confirm there's a policy, a named owner, and a defined risk tolerance. Map, you establish who's affected, the intended use, and what could plausibly go wrong. Measure, you test the system against those 7 trustworthy characteristics. You run bias metrics, robustness tests, explainability checks. And manage, you treat the top risks, document whatever residual risk remains, and set up monitoring. When Helios runs map and measure on its hiring model, this is the moment the bias we've been worried about actually surfaces, quantified, in the measure step, where you can finally see it in act. Now the second backbone, ISO/AC 42001, published in December 2023. This is a landmark, the world's first certifiable AI management system standard. The phrase to hold on to is management system. For 2001 doesn't govern the AI directly, it governs how your organization manages AI, the structures, processes, and oversight around it. It's a sibling to ISO 27001 for information security and ISO 9001 for quality. And here's the key difference from NIST. Where NIST is a flexible framework you adopt informally, ISO 42001 is auditable and certifiable. An accredited body can formally certify that your AI management system meets the standard. If you've ever worked with any ISO management standard, 42001 will feel instantly familiar, because it uses the same Plan, Do, Check, Act backbone. Plan, understand your context, secure leadership commitment, plan your approach, put support in place. Do, operate it. Check, evaluate performance through internal audits and management reviews. Act, improve based on what you found. This shared structure is a real advantage. An organization already certified to ISO 27001 for security can slot AI governance straight into the same management machinery rather than building something entirely new alongside it. The practical heart of 42001 is Annex A, which provides 38 AI-specific controls grouped into 9 objectives: AI policy, internal organization, resources, AI impact assessment, the AI system lifecycle, data for AI, information for interested parties, the use of AI systems, and third-party relationships. Importantly, these controls are high-level and principle-based. They're not prescriptive technical checklists telling you which bias metric to use. You select the controls that apply to your situation, justify your selection in a document called the Statement of Applicability, and implement them in proportion to your actual risks. Again, exactly the model anyone who's done ISO 27001 already knows. One control area deserves a spotlight because it ties directly back to the law: the AI System Impact Assessment. 42001 requires you to identify, analyze, evaluate, and treat the impacts of an AI system on individuals and on society, across its whole lifecycle, documenting the intended use, the foreseeable misuse, and your mitigations. There's even a dedicated companion standard, ISO 42005, published in 2025, that gives detailed guidance on how to do these assessments. Notice what this means: the standard hardwires impact assessment into your management system, and that lines up almost one-to-one with the fundamental rights impact assessment the EU AI Act demands. Do it once, satisfy both. How do you actually get certified? It's a staged path. You implement your AI management system, then run an internal audit and a management review to check your own readiness. Then an accredited certification body runs a Stage 1 audit, checking your documentation is ready, followed by a Stage 2 audit, checking your implementation actually works in practice. If you pass, you get a certificate, followed by annual surveillance audits and a full recertification every 3 years. The value of all this is the independence: a third party vouches for you. And that's why ISO 42001 has moved from nice to have to something enterprise buyers increasingly demand in procurement and RFPs. 42001 doesn't stand alone, it sits in a small family of related standards that work together. 42001 itself is the certifiable management system, the centerpiece. 23894 provides guidance on AI risk management. 22989 defines AI concepts and terminology, the shared vocabulary. And 42005, which we just mentioned, guides AI impact assessments. So when you adopt ISO for AI governance, 42001 is the hub you certify against, and the others are the supporting reference material that helps you do it well. Let's tie the whole module together, because this is the payoff. Picture 3 layers nesting. ISO 42001 is the outer shell, the management system that organizes everything. Inside it, you run the NIST Govern Map Measure Manage process to actually handle risk on each system. And both of those, together, generate the documentation, the risk records, the human oversight evidence, and the impact assessments, which are exactly what's needed to demonstrate EU AI Act compliance. They overlap heavily, and that overlap is by design. The strategic insight for any governance professional: do the work once, and satisfy all 3. That's the efficiency that makes a mature program affordable instead of overwhelming. So Helios makes its choice. It adopts ISO 42001 to structure and eventually certify its program, partly because its enterprise customers are starting to ask for that certificate in procurement. It uses the NIST AI RMF to run risk assessments on each model, including the hiring tool. And it maps the outputs of both onto its EU AI Act high-risk duties. One coherent stack. Quick recap: NIST is the voluntary framework, 4 functions, 7 trustworthy characteristics, and a generative AI profile. ISO 42001 is the certifiable management system, Plan Do Check Act, 38 Annex A controls, a built-in impact assessment, and third-party certification. And they map to each other and to the law. Now, in Module 7, we build the actual program that runs all of this.